Welcome! In today's video, we'll explore the fascinating story of the ballpoint pen. This simple invention, created in the 1930s, revolutionized the way we write and has become an essential tool in daily life. Let's dive into how the ballpoint pen came to be and its lasting impact on the world. 1. The origins of the ballpoint pen. The idea of a ballpoint pen was not a sudden breakthrough. It evolved over time. Before the ballpoint pen, people used fountain pens, which required ink to be constantly refilled. These pens had a nib that would release ink when the writer applied pressure. However, fountain pens often leaked, and the ink would smudge easily. In 1938, a Hungarian-Argentine named Laszlo Biro came up with the idea for the modern ballpoint pen. Biro, a journalist, was frustrated with the mess that fountain pens made. He wanted a pen that wouldn't smudge, required no ink refills, and could be used on paper more easily. Biro and his brother, Georgi, worked together to design a pen with a tiny ball bearing in the tip. The ball would rotate as the pen moved across the page, picking up ink from a reservoir and depositing it onto the paper. This simple mechanism solved many of the issues people had with fountain pens, and it was the beginning of a new era in writing instruments. 2. The early development and challenges. After the Biro brothers created their first prototype, they faced several challenges. The initial versions of the ballpoint pen were prone to clogging, and the ink didn't flow consistently. The ink was too thick, and the ball didn't rotate smoothly enough to provide a steady stream of ink. Despite these setbacks, the Biro brothers continued refining their design. In 1943, the brothers patented their invention. They initially marketed the ballpoint pen to newspapers and journalists, as the design was much more practical for writing than the fountain pens of the time. While the pen worked well on newsprint, it struggled with smooth writing on regular paper. The ink would often blot or be uneven. This issue was addressed by refining the ink formula and making the ball-bearing mechanism more efficient. Even though the pen showed promise, it wasn't until the 1950s that the ballpoint pen became a commercial success. The invention of better ink and smoother ball bearings made the pen much more reliable. 3. The commercialization and success of the ballpoint pen. The ballpoint pen's big break came when it was marketed to the general public. In 1945, an American entrepreneur named Milton Reynolds saw the potential of the ballpoint pen and convinced a company to mass produce it. He launched the Reynolds Rocket, which was the first widely available ballpoint pen. The pen was a hit, and its success marked the beginning of a writing revolution. Before long, ballpoint pens were being sold everywhere. They were cheap to produce, reliable, and easy to use. This new writing tool quickly replaced fountain pens, which were more expensive and required more maintenance. The ballpoint pen was also more convenient because it didn't require ink refills, and it didn't smudge or leak like fountain pens did. In the 1950s, the pen industry boomed. Companies like Parker, Schieffer, and Cross started designing their own ballpoint pens. These pens were sold at affordable prices, making them accessible to nearly everyone. What made ballpoint pens especially popular was their ability to write smoothly without requiring much effort. People could now write for long periods without having to worry about ink splattering or blotting. 4. The evolution of the ballpoint pen design. As the ballpoint pen became more popular, manufacturers began improving its design. The early models of the pen were simple and utilitarian, but over time, companies began experimenting with different shapes, colors, and features. The pens became more comfortable to hold, with ergonomic grips that made writing easier. One significant development was the creation of refillable pens. Instead of discarding the entire pen, once the ink ran out, people could replace the ink cartridge, which made the pen last longer and was more environmentally friendly. The development of transparent pens also allowed users to see how much ink was left, preventing frustrating moments when the pen ran dry unexpectedly. The materials used to make the pens also improved. Initially, the body of the pen was often made of metal or cheap plastic, but as demand grew, manufacturers began using more durable and colorful materials. Ballpoint pens could now be designed in a variety of shapes, sizes, and colors to appeal to different markets. Companies also introduced luxury versions of the ballpoint pen. High-end brands such as Montblanc and Cross created pens that were not only functional, but also stylish and elegant. These pens became a status symbol, worn by professionals and used as gifts for special occasions. 5. The impact on writing and communication. The ballpoint pen revolutionized the way people communicated. With a ballpoint pen, writing became faster and more efficient. It was no longer necessary to dip a nib in ink or constantly refill the pen. The ballpoint pen allowed people to write quickly and smoothly, whether they were taking notes, signing documents, or composing letters. One of the greatest advantages of the ballpoint pen was that it made writing more accessible. Before the ballpoint pen, only certain people, such as professionals and scholars, used fountain pens. Ballpoint pens were inexpensive, so nearly everyone could afford them. The affordability of the ballpoint pen made it a global product, used by people of all ages and social classes. The ballpoint pen also changed how we worked and studied. It helped speed up the process of writing, which was especially important in offices and classrooms. People could now take notes without worrying about ink blots or constant refills. The pens allowed for greater productivity, which had a lasting impact on business and education. 6. The global spread and cultural significance. The global popularity of the ballpoint pen spread rapidly after its introduction in the 1940s and 1950s. The mass production of ballpoint pens made them affordable and accessible in countries all over the world. By the mid-20th century, nearly every person had at least one ballpoint pen in their household. The ballpoint pen became a symbol of modernity. It was a tool used by students, professionals, and writers, and its widespread use made it an essential part of everyday life. Its simplicity, efficiency, and practicality made it an indispensable invention that was adopted across different cultures and languages. In addition, the ballpoint pen became a part of the global economy. Companies around the world began to produce their own versions of the pen, and it became a key product in the stationery market. Pen manufacturers, including Bic, Pilot, and Zebra, became household names, and ballpoint pens became an essential promotional item for businesses. 7. Ballpoint pens in the space race. The ballpoint pen's practical design even found a place in the high-tech world of space exploration. In the 1960s, astronauts faced a unique challenge: writing in space. Fountain pens would not work in zero gravity, and pencils could create dangerous shavings that could float and damage equipment. 8. Ballpoint pen in the digital age. As we entered the 21st century, digital technology began to change the way people communicate. Computers, smartphones, and tablets allowed people to type instead of write by hand. Despite this shift, the ballpoint pen has remained relevant and widely used. 9. Environmental considerations and the future of the ballpoint pen. As the world becomes more environmentally conscious, the impact of disposable pens has come under scrutiny. Ballpoint pens are often thrown away after they run out of ink, contributing to plastic waste. Many companies have responded by offering refillable pens and pens made from recycled materials. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful content. See you next time.